And welcome back to Mindset Monday. I'm Gene Zanetti, your coast-to-coast mindset coach from Winning Mindset, the #1 sports-specific mindset training systematic program anywhere in the world, Winning Mindset. Today we're going to talk about building a culture. So let's say you have a young team, an inexperienced team, or even a very good experienced team that's maybe lost their way. They don't know why they're doing it anymore. We got to talk about building a culture. We got to talk about getting on the same page, having everyone shared vision, moving in the same direction. So, how do we do that? Step 1, it starts at the top. Remember, as a coach, we have to be a leader. Okay, titles come from above. The athletic director can make you the coach, but only your team can make you the leader. Okay? So that means we have to live the code. If we're asking our athletes to do something, we got to be willing to do it ourselves. So if we're telling our athletes it's important to be disciplined, to stay away from garbage, distractions, doing bad things, we got to do that ourselves as coaches. I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. You've heard that before probably. Well, it's the same thing with this. Your athletes might not be listening to what you're saying, but they're always watching what you're doing. And a lot of athletes are just waiting for an excuse to not do what you're saying. And in other words, if we're being incongruent with what we're saying, we give our athletes an excuse to not live the code themselves. We tell them it's important to be disciplined. If they see we're not disciplined, well, now they have an excuse not to be disciplined themselves. So we want to make sure that as coaches, we're living the values that we're teaching to them. And then it's going to be much more powerful. Okay? Next, we got to make sure that we care about our athletes. That's so important. Obviously, whether it's military, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a coach, think about some of your favorite teachers, your favorite coaches. What did you like about them? They cared about you. Usually they cared about you even outside of sports. They took an interest in you. So we got to do that with our athletes. And I've seen coaches that do this when they really show their athletes that they care. And I mean, it's not just with words, but communicating with the way they live and the way they treat them, that I really do care about you. I'll tell you what, those athletes, they'll run through a brick wall if their coach said to, because they know the coach has their best interest at heart. So they want to do their best for the coach. So you got to show that you care and really, really mean it. And I know you do, because that's why you got into coaching, just like me, right? So make sure you're doing that. You're showing that you care, and we're living the code ourselves, right? As coaches, we don't want to get caught up in a lot of the garbage, eating junk food, staying up late. I'm not saying anyone's perfect, but as best as you can, live the code. Staying away from substances, bad language. I get it. We all have vices, things that we struggle with. Doing the best we can to live the code ourselves. If your athletes see that you're really trying to live the code, they'll have a lot more respect for you, and they're much more likely to do it themselves. Next, we need to unify the team behind a goal. What's our goal? So with Winning Mindset, when we work with our teams, we go through short-term and long-term goals. Now we break this down even further into sports, school, and life. What are the long-term goals? What are the short-term goals in sports, school, and life? We don't want to leave any area to chance. So we have them actually write that down and spend time on their goals. Now, more important than their goal is their purpose. Why do they want to achieve their goal? What's the point of it all? Why are we striving for a state championship or a county championship or a national championship, whatever it is? Well, the purpose, we want to unite the team behind this. That the idea is, our purpose is, we want to use sports as a vehicle to build virtue, to make you a better person. Okay, if that's the purpose, to build virtue, you'll get good at sports. And the benefit is you're going to now be able to apply that to school and to life. Remember, don't be a dumb jock. Be a scholar athlete. Well, the way that's going to happen is by building virtue in sports. Okay, so many athletes, I hate to see this, but you see so many athletes, they do really well when they compete, or they're really good out there in the field of competition, but they don't apply those lessons to life. And then they're not successful in their career. Then they have bad personal relationships with family, with friends. They just don't translate those lessons to life. After sports are done, they're out of shape, they're not exercising anymore. And it's because when they're competing, they don't have the purpose. They have the goal. They know they want to be a champion, but they don't have the purpose of building virtue, using sports as a vehicle to build virtue in your entire life. Because remember, confidence is confidence. Mental toughness is mental toughness. Discipline is discipline, whether in sports, school, or life. Doesn't make a difference if you're in a championship competition. Doesn't matter if you're taking a big test in school, the SATs, the ACTs, the GREs, the MCATs, an entry exam for a certain job. it's a pressure situation, whether we're saying no to drugs or peer pressure, whether we're in a job interview, whether you're asking someone you're attracted to out on a date, it doesn't make a difference. In these pressure situations, did we develop the virtue? Did we learn how to relax under pressure? Did we build confidence or not? So sports is a perfect breeding grounds for building virtue. We have to make sure that that is the purpose of what we're doing. We have our goal, we have our purpose, building virtue. And then again, like I said, making sure that us as coaches, we're living the code. They got to see that you're dialed in and you're trying to build virtue too as a coach, and they're much more likely to listen to you. Next, we need to have a shared statement of what we believe. We need to have shared principles, okay? A lot of teams, we give out rules and regulations, what time you have to be at practice, what paperwork has to be in. That's very important. But also important, we need our principles. We need to go through who we are and what we believe. Remember, the greatest warriors in the world, the U.S. military, the Spartans, the samurai, the Aztecs, what do they have in common? Two things. They know what they believe, and they're willing to die for it. Look at a martial arts dojo. They get up as a group. They say their code out loud as a group, right? You think about the U.S. military. They know their code, right? At Mass, I think about on Sunday, we get up, we stand up, we say the creed out loud. Same thing as a team. We have to be on the same thing. We have to be on the same page with each other. We have to have shared principles, and you got to say them out loud because sometimes we don't believe them, we don't internalize them. Well, your mouth sometimes needs to teach your heart, and your mouth needs to teach your mind. So you got to say them out loud. Before and after every practice, we have the teams that we work with get up and say the 4 mindset principles. I'm thankful for the opportunity to compete. I'm aggressive and relentless. I have no fear of losing or making mistakes, and I never ever give up. They say this every day, twice a day. And if they're doing a team lift, they're doing it before and after the lift too. So anytime the team has a mindset workshop with us, we tell them anytime they have a practice, anytime they have a lift, anytime they have a conditioning session, they get up as a group, they go through those 4 mindset principles. And when you say them out, you stand up and you say them out loud. It builds culture. It builds unity. That's why the military does it. That's why martial arts dojo does it. They do it also. So we got to make sure that we're doing it, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. Just see what the most successful people are doing, and you copy that. So we got to have our principles down cold so we know who we are. And then those principles and our purpose become a measuring stick for every action we take on the team. They become a measuring stick for every decision that we make. Every action we take, every decision we make, we go back to those principles. We go back to our purpose, building virtue, and we go back and going back to the principles. So we're trying to create a family here. That's another thing we want to remember. We're building a culture. We want to build a family. My coach back in college, Zeke Jones, world champion, Olympic silver medalist. He also coached the Olympic team. He always said, this is the Penn Wrestling family, which included the athletes, the parents, the coaches, the donors, the school administration. He made everyone feel like we're part of a family. And that's the language you want to start using with your athletes, with your assistant coaches, with your parents, with your booster club, with your athletic director, with the administrators, with the fans. We're all part of the same family. Doesn't mean you have the same last name, doesn't mean you have the same address, but it means we're all together on the shared vision. That's why with Winning Mindset, when we work with teams, we always invite you to bring your parents, coaches, your athletes, and if you have a recreation team or feeder program that's coming up into your high school, bring them too. If you're a college, we're constantly inviting you. Bring your administrators, bring any of your donors. Let them come in also, because a lot of the things we talk about, it's going to apply to everyone, and we're going to all feel like we're part of the process. That's what we want to do. We want everyone to feel part of the process. And there's big ways we could do that. Like we said, we don't charge anything extra for you bringing in any of these other people. We want your entire sports family there when we're going through the mindset sessions. We want everyone to feel part of it. And think about it. If you have a recreation team, you want them, they're going to be real excited to be with the older group, right? Because now once they get to you in high school, if you're, let's say you're a high school coach, once they get up to you, they're going to be using the same words. They're going to have the same philosophies. It's going to be less work for you as a coach, but we got to be willing to put in the elbow grease now and bring them in. Bring the parents, bring the athletes. One of the things I just hit on there is using the same words. We need the same word choice. So we're telling our athletes, first think about a family. Families, we use the same words. We have the same inside jokes. We could kind of read each other's minds because we've communicated so much. So we want our teams using a similar language when they talk. We want them saying, in other words, changing. We don't use the word problem. We use the word challenge. Right? There's no problems. There's only challenges. It feels different, right? It gets the team on the same page there. We don't say I'll try anymore. We say I will, because we know that once we say we will, we don't let ourselves off the hook. Now we make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable. So we're not going to try. We're going to do it. Another thing we might say is, instead of using the words should, must, have to, or need to, I should do this, I have to do this. No, I want to do this. I choose to do this. It makes it much more empowering, much more positive. Not using the word worry. We don't use the word worry. We use the word focus. We're not worried about anything. So as a team, what happens? We start viewing things totally different because we have a shared mindset. So families use the same words. So we want to make sure everyone's using similar words as a team. Next, we want to make sure that athletes, the team, you guys have functions and meetings outside of the sport. Families don't just get together for goal-related activities, but also for other things, right? So you might have a team car wash fundraiser. You might have it, having the athletes do a pasta party if that's for your sport. Bringing people together, encouraging the athletes to hang out with each other outside of sports. That's important. Now, of course, it's also important to get a break from one another, but it is important to spend some time together. It's great when you see your athletes going to church together, when you see them at the mall together, because now what happens is throughout their life, they're still remembering to stay on track, to live the code. So you want them together. You want them to like one another. That's how a unit operates. That's how you make it really serious about your brothers and your sisters on the team. So make sure you want to encourage them to be together even outside of the sports. And next, you have to remember, it takes time. Okay, Rome wasn't built in a day. If you want to build a culture with the team, we've been trained to think a certain way. We need to train people to think a new way, right? A lot of things were learned. We need to unlearn a lot of bad habits, and we need to learn a lot of new good habits. So it takes time. So we're constantly building this in. You don't have to think about it as much. When you're working with us, one of our mindset coaches, we're talking about this. We're constantly reinforcing these kind of messages. We're going through the plan of life, our 4 steps to a strong plan of life, every day what we could be doing to improve. That's communicated to your team. So now they're all doing the daily plan of life. They're doing the weekly plan of life. Your team will have accountability buddies. We set up those accountability buddies. We take the guesswork out of it. Each athlete on the team is paired up with someone else. Doesn't mean you don't even have to be equal talent of sports. But when the athletes write down what are the areas they're looking to improve on in sports, school, and life, they have an accountability buddy that they meet with every week. So we build all this in so we could create that sense of family, that sense of brotherhood or sisterhood. Remember, bringing everyone in. We want to treat it like a family. Same goals, same purposes, same principles, same word choice. You care about one another, an environment where people truly care, not just because you win, not just because things go well, but because they care. We don't let one another down. And if we keep those principles at the top, if we're all trying to live the code, I promise you, in a short amount of time, shorter than you think, you will build a successful culture. And eventually that culture will turn into a dynasty. So don't get discouraged if you have a young or inexperienced team now, or even if you have a very good team that seems all over the place. We start implementing this stuff with Winning Mindset. We're happy to help you. Take some of the guesswork out of this. Build this into your program. We'll create a winning culture. We'll create an area where we actually are building virtue. And these kids will start to be better in sports, in school, in life. We love to do it. We're happy to help. Make sure you get a hold of us. Also, great thing you could be doing for your team with the holidays coming up, our Predator Mindset book, learning the difference between the predator and prey mindset. It's a short book, pretty easy to read. The font isn't too small. Your athletes can digest this. I've made this so it would be understandable to a middle school kid. We have our highest level athletes. They're benefiting from it also. So all different ages, doesn't matter. Be a great Christmas present you could get for your athletes. Building the Predator Mindset. Great thing. Again, it gets everyone on the same page, really understanding some of the key philosophies of our program. We'd love to send you out a bulk order to everyone. Get these out to all your athletes. Make sure you read it yourself. Help living the code. Like we said, we want to create family. We're all about building relationships and thinking long term. If you're all about mindset, if you understand how important mindset is, we want to help you with that. We could get to that next level, but it starts with a single step. So make sure you're taking action today. We really want to see you succeed. We're with you in the process. Make sure you stay with us every week. I'm Gene Zanetti, your coast-to-coast mindset coach, reminding you as always, whether it's sports, school, or life, mindset makes the difference. Take care.